previous module, we dealt with the poem C. We started with the poem C, and in that module, we basically studied about James Reeves. Then we took first paragraph of the poem, the C, and we also talked about some literary terms and how metaphors are being used, how alliteration is used, how assonance and imagery and images are being used there. Okay, and also how onomatopoeia, these figures of speech, are very beautifully used in order to give a real life picture to the words written by the poet. Now, today I'll be taking the next two stanzas of the poem. Here, let's start with the second stanza. In the second stanza, in the first stanza, what we saw that it's the bright daytime, and there is a lot of vibrancy in the sea and the dog also. Okay, so whole comparative vibration of both sea and the dog is being dealt there. The hunger, the wildness of the sea and dog, and how they are looking for their food, their to quench their hunger. Okay, hunger is in a when we take hunger for the sea, it is the hunger of breaking the stones and or big rocks in the sea. Okay, giving through the process of erosion and displacing them. That is the hunger of a sea. And what's the hunger of a dog? He's looking for bones. A very comparative analysis. In the second stanza, the poet takes or gives us imagination of a night scene. Okay, how a seashore appears in the night. And when the night wind roars, here night wind roars, it is a personification. Wind is roaring, and the moon rocks in the stormy cloud. Moon rocks, again a personification. So here what happens, that in the night, here the tone of the poem becomes bit bitter. Okay, there is a bit bitterness in the tone of the poem. And the moon rocks in the stormy cloud. He bounds to his feet and snuffs and sniffs. Snuffs and sniffs. It shows the actions performed by the dog. He's sniffing, he's snapping, shaking his wet sides over the cliffs, and howls and hellos long and loud. And howls and hellos, hollows. So he's howling. The dog is howling. The night appearance of the sea. Okay, in the stormy situation, the sea appears in the same way. When a dog howls, there is a sense of bitterness. There is a sense of darkness in the sound of this poem. Here, in the second stanza, now look at the explanation of it. In the second stanza, the tone of the poem becomes dreadful, bitter. Here the poet puts forward a night scene where sea is amidst storm and thunder. It is a night scene, and the sea is surrounded by total storm and thunder. In the night, when the wind is roaring, the moon is also having its effect. Okay, now how the moon is having its effect when the clouds are roaring and thundering and the wind is roaring. Okay, the moon is also shaking. The moon is not in a fixed place. It is also shaking with these thunder effects. Moon rocks, becomes shaky amidst the stormy clouds. Snuff and sniff, these attributes to nature of God. Sea too is sniffing and snuffing. Here the poet uses an oral imagery of howls and hollows, long and loud. Here it is showing that how the dog in the night, he is howling so loud and long. Okay, and in the same way, the raging sea is also howling. Okay, so raging sea is compared to a howling dog. Now, let's take up the final stanza. But on quiet days in May or June, when even the grasses on the dune play no more their reedy tune, with his head between his paws, he lies on the sandy shores, so quiet, he scarcely snores. So, children, when you see, by the time you reach the final stanza of the poem, you find a drastic change in the tone. And what's the drastic change? The drastic change is that the whole environment becomes very somber, calm, and quiet. Okay, so in the very first and the second stanza, we find something very something very which is very loud, which is full of storm, which is full of vibrancy, anger, and there is a spirit to fight for everything. And by the time it comes down to the last stanza, after the night, where the whole playful mood comes to an end. So here the whole tune becomes very somber, cool, and calm. In the final stanza, the tone of poem changes drastically. It becomes quiet, both sea and dog. In the month of May and June, and when it's happening, it's in the and what type of calmness? The calmness is being taken up to the calmness when which is seen in the month of May and June. No storm, even the grasses are not growing. There is no storm in the May and June. There is no storm. There is so much of calmness and quietness as it happens in the month of May and June. So grasses are also not growing there. There is perfect quietness. The dog puts his head between his paws and quietly rests without snoring. And what the dog is doing, that fierce, that untamable dog, what he is doing, who was very restless, very wild, while he was looking for food, he was showing the very cruel and very angry aspect of his side. So what is his situation? He is now very quiet, and while he is sleeping, he is not even snoring. There is so much quietness, intense calm and quietness is there. Sea too becomes quiet. That violent, thunderous, stormy sea is now quiet. Sea seen here resting like a dog, and here there's again a comparison that the sea, how the sea is also sleeping, quietness, it's again sleeping quietly as the dog is sleeping. The deep quietness prevails. The poem talks about how nature struggles throughout the day, and at the end, in the night, it becomes quiet and calm so that it can restore its energy again for next day's struggle. Okay, so children, you saw how nature shows us its different aspects. Okay, from very morning till the evening and the night. Okay, how we can take it as nature very much teaches us about our how to progress in life, how to take up things. One should be very full of energy, vibrations, and full of youthfulness when we are working for our aim. Okay, but after doing regular and rigorous activities, struggle, there is a time when everyone wants to sleep in calm and quietness. Okay, and that is the time when is the night when everything becomes quiet. There is perfect calmness. Okay, and from at that time we can say that yes, we restore our energy again to take up new new experiments, new challenges. Now let's take up one by one that what all are the rhyme schemes and how stanzas are being channelized. One can see the use of onomatopoeia, rumbling and tumbling. Okay, so what onomatopoeia is? It creates a sound effect resembling what it denotes. Okay, suppose I say cat mews. So mews what? That is the sound which is produced by the cat. Rumbling and tumbling. It means that it gives us a sound effect of the stones. Rhyming words, we can find here rhyming words also like grey, day, gnaws, jaws, stones, bones, sniff, clips, dunes, tune, etc. And one thing you can find here in the poem that there is variation in the rhyme scheme. Okay, there is a huge variation in the rhyme scheme. Like suppose if I say here that in the first stanza if I take dog, okay, A, then in the second it is B. So gray and day, they rhyme together. Okay, so rhyme scheme in the first stanza will appear as A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, E. First stanza is not rhyming with the other, first verse of the poem is not rhyming with the others. Okay, so first stanza single, just then take up in the second stanza. And when the night wind roars, okay, so roars, it is happening in the only first stanza. Roars, sniffs, sniff, cliff, clouds, loud. So here also in the second and third stanza, stanza also first is not rhyming. It is roars. So A, B, B, A, B, C, C, B is the rhyme scheme in the second one. And in the final stanza, it is June, June, tune, pause, shores, snores. So A, 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 B, 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 C, C. So this is way. So here you can find a huge variation in the rhyme schemes. So children, with this we come to an end of the poem The Sea by James Reeves.